La 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 la.
In the meantime,
Please stay.
my happiness is not in the hands of someone else.
Wow. Okay, we got to get this. Is it even on? Yeah, okay. So we had a little long rehearsal today, but it does say hymn sing in the order of service, so we're going to do a short hymn sing. There's actually no music for this. It's a piece by Abby Bettinas called Love is Love is Love is Love. And there's 4 parts, and you can choose your own adventure there on this. So, and then if the choir, if you know it, can help fill in the other parts, that'd be great. So the first part is just love, love, love. Is F sharp? First part goes, this might sound sort of familiar. Love, love, love. All we need is love, love, love. All you need is love, love, love. Can somebody help out? All we need is love. Did you sing the second part? Here's the second part.
Love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love. Oh, love is love. It's love is love. Oh, love is love. It's love is love. Love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love. Oh, love is love is love is love. Oh, love is love is love is love. Oh, love, caritas et amor with love. Love is love. Love, caritas et amor with this love. Love is love. Love, love, love. All you need is love, love, love. All you need is love, love, love. All you need is love, love, love. All we need is love, love, love. All we need is love, love, love. All we need is love.
Good morning and welcome to the Community Church of Chapel Hill, Unitarian Universalist. My name is Bill Rote. I'm a member of the Worship Associates Ministry. Our minister is Reverend Thom Belote. I especially want to welcome any guests or visitors, newcomers that are here, and I'd like to call your attention to the special note for you on the back of the order of service, welcome guests and newcomers. I also would like to welcome those of you who are viewing online. Lyrics to the hymns can be found on the live stream screen, and our order of service is available in the Sunday email or on the church website. Also, just a note, if you'll see the inside of your order of service, there are several announcements there. I would like to invite each of you to stop at the table for the strategic planning during the coffee hour, or you can register online. to participate in that. It's important to have your voice in the planning of our church and how we move forward. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you arrived at this beloved place, you are welcome here. And please, if you would, turn off or silence any phones. And stand as you are able. Join us in our opening hymn, number 1007, There's a River Flowing in My Soul.
There's a river flowing in my
soul.
There's
a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing. There's a river flowing. There's a river flowing in my soul.
Back in August, when this year's theme of connection was introduced, we read it in the service, a poem by Marge Piercy, in the back of our hymnal. A line from that poem: live as if you like yourself, and it may happen. Our Unitarian Universalist faith affirms the worth and dignity of every person, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Sometimes we struggle with this. You mean that other person? And sometimes we struggle with this. You mean me? Surely you don't mean me. This morning's service is about reconnecting to the self, in spite of the shame, in spite of insecurity, in spite of our feelings of unworthiness, in spite of our struggles. Come, let us live as if we like ourselves, and it may happen. Come, let us worship together. Now please join with me in saying the words to the lighting of our chalice listed in your order of service. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us.
Before we have our offering, which is going to come early in the service, earlier than usual, just a little forewarning, I want to take a moment and just say a couple of words about this morning's service. First of all, I want to say This morning's service does touch on some pretty heavy and difficult themes, including addiction, mental illness, and suicide. And so I know this is kind of some heavy stuff. And so after the service, making space, there'll be space made in the Kirby room. Intern Jen will be there. Members of the caring ministry will be there. And if anybody wants to drop by and share some thoughts or kind of speak to somebody, that'll be some of the resources that'll be provided. I also want to introduce the two pieces of music that are going to be played during the service this morning. The first one, which you're going to hear in just a moment, is one that I guarantee you no other church is performing right now. It is a song from the band 9 Inch Nails, the lead singer Trent Reznor, from their 1994 sophomore album, The Downward Spiral, and it's a song called Hurt. You may not know the 9 Inch Nails version, but you may know the Johnny Cash version. Johnny Cash covered it at the end of his life and put a bit of a different spin on it. It's a song that is spoken out of that feeling of depression and self-loathing. That is the expression of the song. But pay attention, because there's actually a line at the end where it turns at the very end. And then the second piece that'll follow right before the sermon is a piece featuring the entire choir. It's called Please Stay by the composer Jake Runestad. And there's a portion of that where the composer takes lines that are from a campaign hashtag I Kept Living about suicide awareness and suicide prevention. And it's a song that is tender and loving and calls to everyone, please stay, please stay. Bill, would you introduce the offering?
Freely have we received gifts that minister to our needs of body and spirit. Gladly we bring to our church and its wide concerns a portion of this bounty. If you wish to donate online, the information is on the church's website, and there will be a QR code in your order of service as well.
I hurt myself today to see if I still feel. I focus on the pain, the only thing that's real. The needle tears a hole, the old familiar sting, try to kill it all away, but I remember everything. What have I become? My sweetest friend. Everyone I know goes away in the end. You could have it all, my empire of dirt. I will let you down, I will make you hurt. I wear this crown of thorns upon my liar's chair. the broken thoughts I cannot repair. Beneath the stains of time, the feelings disappear. You are someone else. I'm still right here. What have I become? My sweetest friend. Everyone I know goes away in the end. And you could have it all. My empire of dirt, I will let you down. I will make you hurt. If I could start again, a million miles away, I would keep myself. I would find a way.
Before we hold our time of sharing joys and sorrows, the joys and sorrows of our congregation on this already heavy-themed morning, I wanted to take a few moments to ask us to be mindful and to hold in our hearts those impacted by the war in Palestine and Israel, and all of those who are suffering and at risk in that corner of the globe and around the world. As we witness on the news the horrors of war, I ask that you join me in this time, to join me in mourning the killing of civilians. I ask that you join me in asking for hostages to be released. I ask that you join with me in asking for water and food and medicine and safety for children, for women and families. And I ask that you join with me in praying for wisdom and resolve, that violence does not escalate any further. And at this time in our own nation and in our own community, I ask that we be aware in our living of the forces of anti-Semitism in our society, that we understand that our Jewish neighbors are hurting and afraid, and that we work to build a world where our Jewish friends are safe and loved. And in our own nation and community, I ask that we be aware of the forces of Islamophobia in our society, that we understand that our Muslim and Arab neighbors are hurting and afraid, and that we work to build a community where our Muslim and Arab friends are safe and loved. May we be granted this wisdom, not only in our prayers, but in our lives. This time in the service, we're going to hold a moment for sharing the joys and the sorrows of our lives. If you've come this morning with either a significant personal joy or sorrow, you're invited to come forward, place a stone in the water bowl, speak your name, and share your joy or your sorrow. Let us enter into this time of trust.
My name is Mary LeMay, and I'm a longtime member of this congregation. Sunday, a week ago right now, I was in a kayak on a little fingerling inlet of the Pacific Ocean just north of Monterey Bay, kayaking with my daughter behind me. And it was a perfect morning, and we saw families and families of harbor seals and families of otters looking just the way they do on National Geographic movies. Except they were real, and they were like right where you are. And hundreds, literally, of pelicans. And the joy is that I am 83 years old, and I was able to get into the kayak and paddle for an hour and a half.
Hi, my name's Jessica McKenzie. I'm a newer member to the church. We got some bad news this week, so this is the sorrow. A friend of mine from high school, he's 33, he took his own life this week. And so it's been a while since I've kept in touch with him, but I'm dusting off those memories to honor his life. And if you could just keep his family in your thoughts today. Thank you.
I'm Mary Huet, and I come with a concern and a joy. 2 weeks ago, I mentioned at Joys and Concerns that the children of one of our immigrants that we have sponsored had decided after their grandmother died, they had been left in Honduras. The older children, she was able to bring her youngest child with her. When their grandmother died, that's who they were living with, they decided to come to the United States, and they walked from Honduras to Texas. And 2 weeks ago, we didn't know where they were or what was happening. They came across the border at Donna, Texas. They were both picked up. The 20-year-old boy is in detention, Juan Carlos. He's being treated as an adult, even though legally he comes under his mother's asylum claim until he's 21. But they are not honoring that, and he is in a removal procedure. The Immigrant Justice Committee has hired a lawyer for him. He has not yet had his credible fear interview, so having a lawyer before he has his credible fear interview gives him his best chance. So that is our concern. I hope you will hold Juan Carlos close to you. The much, much better news is the 10-year-old Tatiana, also picked up, put into a processing center built for 250 children that had 4,000 children in it in Donna, Texas, is on her way on a plane to Raleigh today. And she will be meeting her mother and her sponsor, Libby Johnson. Libby Johnson and Sharon Mojica, both members of our steering committee, have just done incredible work to get, and Blanca, her mother, have done incredible work to get Tatiana here today. And for those who participated in our I Walk with Immigrants, I want to just say that over 40 people in the church participated. All together, all of us have walked the same miles that Tatiana, the 10-year-old, walked from Honduras to Texas.
I'm Debbie Davis. I don't see my brother here this morning, Glenn Davis, so I feel free to blab. This is a concern. He's having surgery on November 14 for a benign tumor, which this surgery will require 2 specialists of different kinds and drilling through his skull. So it's kind of a big deal. I think he'll be in the hospital 3 days, and he expects to lose his hearing entirely in that ear. But on the other hand, he will be freed from the danger of vertigo and other issues that came from this tumor growing.
Hi, my name is Betsy Yison. That's it's fine. This stone is for my daughter Mary, my son-in-law David, and my granddaughter Peyton, who turned 2 yesterday. 2 weeks ago today, they welcomed her baby brother Henry into this world, for better or worse.
I'm Deborah Clinger, and this is a joy. I just spent the last 3.5 days, Wednesday night through last night, at a conference of the American Academy for Psychotherapists, and I've known, because their semi-annual thing was actually held in Cary, I've had friend colleagues for many years who have been a part of it and heard of it, but never participated in it, and it was just remarkable. There's a big focus on group process. Everybody sitting around in a group and speaking what comes to mind in response to one another. And it was really friggin' messy. There were small groups, there were workshops in groups, and then every day there was a community meeting, which was all 270 people. And first let me say that my father's Jewish, and I was raised with a lot of Meshuggahs and Shlemiels and no Judaism, but my mother, the WASP, always made it clear to me and my siblings that had we lived in Hitler's Germany, we would have been put in a concentration camp or exterminated. And so I have a lot of feelings on some primal level with everything that's going on. And in this, feelings of angst and anguish, I should say. But at this meeting, there were a lot of Jewish people who spoke. Were Israelis. There was a person from Iran. There were people of color who got hurt and angry by things that some white people said. There were women who were hurt and angry about having been touched without consent. There are people who've been coming for years who know one another and know things that happen that I don't, but it was tense and it was rough and it was raw and it was really, really good, and it gave me hope for the future of our planet, really, because if we can come together and make space to listen to one another in this way, I think that's what needs to happen, and the fact that it is happening even in this relatively small way gives me hope.
A final stone is placed this morning for all the joys and the sorrows that we hold in our hearts that were not spoken.
Let us sit for a moment and let these joys, sorrows, concerns rest in our hearts as we approach tenderly the trust we've been given in sharing these. Let us caress and hold our families and others. Let us caress and hold health, safety, births, lives. Let us sit with these and know that whatever we consider that guiding light in our life, the divine, the universe, God, the Spirit, whatever your faith leads you to, let us hold these in our hearts, and those who bring them, and those that were left unsaid. And when we leave, let us leave with hope for our lives, the lives of others, and the peace of the world. Let us hold these in our thoughts and our minds throughout the day. Amen. Would you join us and remain seated for our sung meditation, number 18, What Wondrous Love.
What wondrous love is this, oh my soul, oh my soul. What wondrous love is this, oh my soul. What wondrous love is this,
of my soul, and takes away the pain of my soul. As we were sinking down, sinking down, sinking down, when I was sinking down, sinking down, when I was sinking down beneath my sorrow's ground, friends to me gathered round, oh my soul, oh my soul. Friends to me gathered round, oh my soul. To love and to all friends I will sing, I will sing. To love and to all friends I will sing. To love and to all friends who pain and sorrow mend, with thanks unto the end I will sing, I will sing. With thanks unto the end I will sing.
The reading this morning comes from the most sacred of all sacred texts, the truth of the human story. Earlier this fall, church member Betsy Yison shared with Glenn, who shared with me a link to a podcast that contains a story told by Betsy's daughter, Emily Yison. Emily is a high school teacher in Virginia and is a Moth Story Slam winner. The recording is of Emily telling her winning story in front of a live audience. I imagine a live storytelling event at a bar. And the story that she tells is the story of her suicide attempt and what follows. I am in awe that Emily had the courage to tell her story publicly, and I am grateful and honored and humbled beyond words to have been given consent to speak her words. The portion of her story I'd like to share comes after she attempts to end her own life and after she is released from a psychiatric hospitalization. Here is the last third of that story, the title of which is No Wards for Sad Ladies. About a month after I was released, impulsively I bought a ticket to the cheapest tropical destination I could find, Belize. I thought, if I'm going to go through this alone, I might as well be at a beach. There are two problems with this. First, my skin is basically made from the paper-thin tears of doves. And two, I am deeply fearful of the ocean, out of respect. My loved ones were not exactly thrilled with this choice. Emily, I don't know about this. Don't you feel scared going by yourself? Something might happen to you, and no one will know. Nah, I said, I'll be fine, don't you worry. It turns out that when I stopped having anything to lose, I didn't have any fear anymore. So I decided I was going to do all the things. For example, snorkeling. My new lack of giving a damn led me to bursting into a wooden shack, money in hand, and booking a tour to snorkel with sharks and stingrays. The next day I'm in the water, and these huge stingrays are gliding by me as if I'm not there. And I'm peaceful. And I reach out and I touch one, which you're super not supposed to do. That millisecond was it. And while I regret that it came at the expense of disrespecting the rules of human-wildlife interaction, I felt blissful. I felt I am free to do whatever I want, to be selfish, to talk about my depression to those I love without feeling like a burden, to do more things that are not touching notoriously dangerous wildlife, but are equally exhilarating. And I could do none of this if I were dead. I haven't figured it all out. I have this curse, and it is not going away. But the one thing that I am 100% sure about, the way to wake up every day, is that I am still here.
Don't let your worst day be your last. The storm is strong, but it will pass. You think you can go on another day, but But please stay. Just stay. Please stay. Just stay.
My happiness is no longer in the hands of someone else.
I realize that what people say about me reflects what they are, not who I am.
It's okay to be a work in progress.
Sharing your feelings doesn't make you weak.
Some days are still such a struggle.
All I think about is Abby. I wish she kept living.
I decided to ask for help instead of going through it alone.
It was hard as hell, but I kept living.
One person took the time to listen and understand. Sometimes that's all it takes.
If I could start again 1,000,000 miles away, I would keep myself. I would find a way. I may be the only minister in the world beginning their sermon this morning with lyrics by Trent Reznor and the band 9 Inch Nails. My sermon this morning is about the ways we lose ourselves and how we find ourselves again. It's about the ways we disconnect from ourselves and how it is that we can reconnect. And before we get into it, I want to again mention a few of the preliminaries. First, as I mentioned earlier, following the service, Jen and members of the caring ministry and probably me, we're going to be in the Kirby room over in the Jones building. The Kirby room is the room just behind the fireplace. And so if you feel like sort of like talking or processing or sitting for a while, they'll be there, I'll be there, and you can reach out. I also want to mention another resource in our congregation as well. We have in the church a group called the Mental Health Ministry. They're a group that's a support group for people in our church who are caregivers for or have family members with mental illness. It just so happens that the Mental Health Ministry is meeting at church this afternoon at 2 o'clock. And Susan Spalt is the contact person for this support group. And besides monthly meetings, they also have a wealth of other resources for people who have a loved one with a mental illness. Another thing I'd like to say is that in my sermon this morning, I'm going to be talking about these hard topics from a spiritual or a religious perspective. But I want to be really clear with everyone that these are not things we should engage purely from a spiritual approach. The things that I'm going to be talking about this morning are also medical issues, neurochemical issues, psychiatric and psychological issues, health issues. Religion is not a substitute for healthcare, medicine, therapy, and counseling. And I am not a doctor or a psychiatrist or a psychotherapist. At the same time, it's also clear to me that religion has something to add to this conversation. I think about how the world's most popular program for people facing addiction, Alcoholics Anonymous, is spiritual and religious in its nature. I think about how therapists increasingly incorporate spiritual modalities into their therapy. This includes mindfulness exercises, meditation, and so on. And this is not surprising, because wholeness, healing, purpose, meaning, self-actualization are the goals of both psychology and religion. Back in August, I announced that the unofficial theme of this church year would be connection. And as I thought about all the different aspects of connection and all the different aspects of disconnection that we might consider during this church year, this morning's topic loomed as the most intense, the most difficult, and possibly the most important. What does it mean to be connected to ourselves? What does connection to the self look like? What does it mean to be disconnected from ourselves? And if we're disconnected from ourselves, how do we reconnect? In my last congregation, I had a parishioner who was a professor of psychology, and he loved to tell about his favorite psychological experiment of all time. I think I heard him describe this experiment at least a half dozen times, and I'm not exaggerating. And the experiment went like this. First, the people in the study were screened for depression. And then a diverse sampling of people, some with no depression, some with mild depression, some with moderate depression, and some with severe depression, were put in a room together and instructed to socialize and mingle with each other. While they schmoozed and mingled, they were observed and evaluated on how well they did socially. And then afterwards, the participants in the study were interviewed and asked to self-evaluate how well they had done. The people with no depression, the ones with a strong sense of self-esteem and a happy outlook on life, ranked themselves as being really great at socializing. But it turns out they were highly deluded. They actually had done a lot worse than they thought. The people who suffered from moderate and severe depression tended to report that they had done abysmally at socializing. They were sure they had failed. But it turns out they too were deluded. It turns out they had actually done better than they had thought. And then the researchers interviewed the participants with mild depression who reported, yeah, I guess I did okay. Not great, but not terrible. I had some moments where I thought I connected, and I had some moments where I didn't. And it turned out that their self-assessment was 100% accurate. The researchers concluded that people who are mildly depressed have the most accurate perception of reality. What does it mean to be connected to ourselves? I think it means to see ourselves as we are and to love ourselves as we are, to own the good as well as the bad, to face it all, the blessings and also the painful stuff. To be connected to the self means self-awareness, self-understanding, and self-compassion. If that's the case, then what disconnects us from ourselves is self-delusion, self-judgment, and self-loathing. So in the service today, if we're going to talk about the disconnected self, we have to mention some of the difficult ways that people disconnect from the self. One of those ways is addiction. Addiction to substances or activities that temporarily dull the pain we feel in our lives, but can never satisfy what we are actually seeking. It's no accident, no coincidence that one of the most challenging and dangerous addictions that we face right now in our nation is the opioid crisis. Literally an addiction to painkillers. This is not an accident. So often used, abused in an attempt to block out psychological pain, emotional pain, social pain. Some time ago, I preached a sermon inspired by the work and the writings of Gabor Mate. Mate is a doctor who specializes in treating drug addiction and substance abuse, and his practice is based among people who live on the streets in Vancouver, British Columbia. Dr. Mate observes time and time again how substance abuse and addiction is an attempt to disconnect from the self, to disconnect from emotional pain, to disconnect perhaps from trauma, to disconnect from shame. And if I'm going to talk about disconnection from the self, we probably have to spend a few moments acknowledging the ultimate and most extreme form of disconnection from the self, which is suicide. Suicide is something that has touched many of our lives, many of our families, our communities, our campuses, our congregations. One resource I consulted on suicide said the following, which I found striking. It said, there is much evidence that the thought processes of a suicidal person are often gravely disordered by the effects of trauma, mental health conditions, and substance abuse. The mind of a suicidal person is distorted and often holds the belief that they will be lessening their burden on loved ones by no longer being around. Sometimes individuals in the throes of unimaginable emotional pain are not entirely capable of making a rational decision because their depression, addiction, or other mental health condition prevents them from generating alternative solutions to their problems. There's a lot to unpack there. But I found it striking that this passage begins with the observation that this sense of a disconnected self involves not having an accurate view of the self. One of the most powerful pieces of art that I know about deals with these themes. It's a piece entitled "For Colored Girls Who've Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough." It's written by Ntozake Shange, and it's written in the form of a choreo poem, a poem that's performed dramatically by a chorus of voices. The characters in the choreo poem are each named after the colors of the rainbow, and they deliver a series of poetic monologues in which they talk about their trauma, their struggles, their difficulties, abuse, violence, poverty. And it ends with the characters standing together and reciting over and over again, in fact, chanting in one voice, this line: "I found God within myself and I loved her. I loved her fiercely. I found God within myself and I loved her. I loved her fiercely." Another thing I want to note is that when we are disconnected from ourselves, we're often unable to access those wellsprings of hope that give us creative solutions to our challenges. About a decade ago, there was a campaign that was aimed at reaching out to lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer people. One of the major promoters of this campaign was the sex advice columnist and author Dan Savage, and the name of the campaign was It Gets Better, or hashtag It Gets Better. And people made videos in which they told a bit about their story and ended with the line, "It gets better." The idea was to speak to people, especially distressed people who felt stuck in a reality, felt those lack of solutions, to give them hope, to burst outside of that and to say, there is more. There is more. It does get better. So what does it mean to reconnect with ourselves? To connect fully to the self requires facing and holding the things in our lives that are painful and sad and difficult. It requires making peace with, not avoiding or denying the things in our lives that make us feel ashamed or insecure or unworthy. And that is really, really, really incredibly hard. Because it's the truth of those things that lead us to want to disconnect. But it's also reconnecting with the self means understanding that that is not the whole story and not the whole truth. Connecting with the self means cultivating self-awareness, self-understanding, and self-compassion. And connecting with the self means also holding a larger and more expansive truth. The truth of our inherent worth and dignity. The ability to live as if we like ourselves. The confidence that it does, in fact, get better. The ability to say, I found God within myself, and I love her fiercely. The ability to keep myself and find a way. We're going to end the service this morning with a hymn of hope, a hymn of love. It's the hymn, Love Will Guide Us. But before we sing that, there's a few words to it. The words that are in your hymnal are actually not the complete words. There's actually 2 verses that were not included in the hymnal, and that's because the verses do not contain consistent meter. And so they took out the 2 hymns that don't fit, the 2 verses that don't fit the meter. But we're going to sing the ones that do fit the meter, which are fine verses. But I want to share with you just one, as in closing, just one verse. And that is the verse that's not included, which goes like this. You are like no other being. What you can give, no other can give, to the future of our precious children and to the future of the world where we live. You are like no other being. What you can give, no other can give. Let us connect with that truth. And let us rise in body or in spirit and sing together, Love Will Guide Us.
Join as we say the words for the extinguishing of our chalice, which are in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And before we sing our closing song, Shalom, let's thank the musicians for today's service. If you're comfortable in holding hands, reach out. If not, you may cross your hands over your chest, and let's sing our closing song together, Shalom.
Bye.